"What's the cheapest thing you got here?" the man asked, pulling his hood tighter over his head. The cashier barely looked up. "Soup, $5." Yarick Jensen nodded and slid a 10 across the counter. He kept his voice low, eyes tired, stubble on his face. The hoodie and worn jeans helped. He looked like he hadn't slept in days because he hadn't. He'd spent the last 3 nights studying security footage and shift reports from Store 9. He built this chain himself, 14 fast casual restaurants over 8 years, all offering affordable comfort food with a focus on community. But lately, reviews from Store 9 had tanked. Customers complained about being ignored, turned away, or treated like they weren't welcome. One review stuck in his mind. "I walked in and got told I didn't belong. I left before ordering." He couldn't shake that one. He'd never met the crew at Store 9. It was in another state, and the store had gone through 2 managers in the last year. He'd sent in district managers to check, but they said everything was fine. Yarick didn't believe them. So here he was, dressed like a broke traveler, walking into his own restaurant. The place was half full. A young man in a faded black uniform mopped near the soda machine. 2 older women sat by the window. A teenager scrolled on her phone near the kitchen. No one greeted him. He walked to the counter, ordered the soup, and stepped aside to wait. "Hey," a voice snapped behind him. "You lost or something?" He turned. A waitress with short blonde hair, thick eyeliner, and a name tag that read Lacey was glaring at him. "I just ordered soup," he said calmly. She crossed her arms. "No offense, but you don't look like someone who eats here. You don't belong here." Yarick froze. The words hit harder than he expected. He'd read them in that review, but hearing them out loud, in his own restaurant, "I'm just here to eat," he said quietly. "Yeah," she narrowed her eyes. "Then eat fast. We don't need weirdos hanging around." He didn't reply, just nodded once and stepped aside. The soup came out in a paper bowl. It looked congealed. No spoon, no napkin. He sat in the back corner and watched. 20 minutes passed. Lacey ignored 2 customers who walked in. They waited at the counter for a minute, then left. The teen near the kitchen, her name tag said Amber, kept glancing over at him, looking uneasy. She didn't say anything. A man in a stained apron came over and dropped a wet rag on the table next to Yarick. "You need something?" he asked, voice bored. "No, just eating. You look like trouble," the man muttered, then walked off. Yarick's hands clenched under the table. He was beginning to understand. Amber finally walked over. "Hey," she said quietly. Sorry about earlier." "That wasn't right. You shouldn't have been treated like that." Yarick looked up. "You new here?" he asked. Amber nodded. "Yeah, 2 weeks. It's not usually this bad, but yeah, they're rough. I just try to keep my head down." "Why?" "Because I need this job. My mom's sick." "I can't afford to get fired." Yarick studied her. She was young, maybe 19. Her hands fidgeted with a paper napkin. He stood. "Thanks," he said. "Really, that meant a lot." She looked confused but smiled. "You sure you're okay?" "Yeah, I will be." He tossed the soup in the trash. Lacey saw and rolled her eyes. "Figures," she muttered. Yarick left without another word. Back in the rental car, he sat for a long time. His stomach turned not from the soup, but from the disgust rising in him. He'd built this company on the idea that anyone could walk in and feel like they belonged. Not like this. Never like this. Store 9 was about to change, and no one would see it coming. The next morning, Yarick stood at the back loading dock of Store 9, the chill of early spring curling around his collar. He wore a borrowed uniform, faded brown polo, black slacks, an apron with a stitched name, Kyle. The district manager had made up the alias and arranged for him to shadow as a kitchen trainee for 2 days. No one knew who he really was. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as the first shift dragged in. Amber arrived first, head down, earbuds in. She clocked in without a word. She hadn't recognized him in uniform. Then came Lewis, the line cook, who looked half awake and smelled like he'd slept in his car. Finally, Lacey strutted in 10 minutes late, sipping from a large iced coffee, ignoring the clock in terminal entirely. "Look who we got," Lacey said to no one in particular, nodding toward Yarick. "Another one. Bet he lasts half a shift." Yarick kept his eyes on the floor. He wasn't here to react, he was here to observe. What he saw would decide the future of this place. The morning prep was chaos. Louis barked instructions without checking if Yarick understood. Take those trays, cut the carrots like this, not like a toddler's art project. The knife he handed over was dull. The cutting board was stained and warped. Every surface felt sticky. Amber moved around them quietly, checking inventory and chopping onions at a speed Yarick couldn't match. She didn't speak to Lacey or Louis, not unless she had to. At one point, Louis stepped away to take a call and Lacey wandered into the kitchen, leaned against the counter and started scrolling through her phone. Amber glanced at her, then back at the stack of prep tickets. "Lacey, we're behind," she said without looking up. "Then work faster," Lacey muttered, not lifting her eyes. Yarick watched Amber's jaw tighten. She didn't reply. By 11, the restaurant opened. Customers trickled in, mostly seniors and college students from the nearby campus. Yarick was moved to the dish pit. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave him a view of everyone's rhythm. What he saw worried him. Lacey snapped at customers who asked for substitutions. She rolled her eyes when a woman asked for a clean spoon. When a man in a wheelchair came in and asked if he could move a chair to fit at a booth, she told him, "We're not a furniture store," then walked off. That was it. Yarick dried his hands and walked out to the front. "Excuse me," he said to the man in the wheelchair. "Let me help with that." He moved the chair, cleaned the table, and brought over a menu. "Appreciate it," the man said. "That other girl, I don't know what her problem is." "I'm sorry about that," Yarick said gently. "It won't happen again." He turned to find Amber watching him from the register. She didn't say anything, but her expression softened. The lunch rush hit hard. Orders piled up. The screen flashed red with backlogged tickets. Louis was sweating through his shirt, muttering curses under his breath. Lacey disappeared behind the building for 17 minutes. When she returned, she smelled like cigarettes and something sharper. "Where were you?" Amber asked, panic in her voice. "Break," Lacey said flatly. "You didn't clock out, you left me up front alone." "Not my fault you can't multitask." Amber turned away, blinking fast. Yarick walked toward the kitchen, but Louis grabbed his arm. "You see this?" Louis hissed, pointing at the screen. "This is why new guys don't last, because we're drowning and nobody gives a damn." "Why don't you talk to the manager?" Louis laughed, bitter and low. "We don't have one." "Lacey calls the shifts, but corporate hasn't named a new lead since Greg quit 2 months ago. You think she cares?" Yarick didn't answer. He just nodded and went back to dishes. At 2:30, a woman in a red blouse appeared at the front counter. She looked around, confused. "I placed an online order," she said. "It was supposed to be ready at 2:15. Lacey was leaning against the counter again. She didn't move. "Name?" she asked, not looking up from her phone. "Danielle." Lacey tapped some keys. "Yeah, it's not done." "What do you mean?" "I got the confirmation. Computer must have glitched, not my problem." Yarick had had enough. He stepped out from behind the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. "I'll take care of it," he said to Danielle, then turned to Lacey. "Where's the order sheet?" Lacey narrowed her eyes. "Who do you think you are?" "Someone who understands we don't treat customers like trash." She crossed her arms. "You better watch it. I've been here over a year. I basically run this place. Then you should know better." Louis peeked out from the kitchen. Amber had frozen behind the register. Danielle stepped back, uncomfortable. "I'll just go," she said quietly. "No, you won't," Yarick said gently. "You'll get what you paid for. Give me 5 minutes." She nodded, surprised. Yarick grabbed the ticket, checked the order, and started assembling it himself. Sandwich, side salad, drink. Amber came over to help without a word. Together they packed it, bagged it, and handed it over. Danielle blinked. "Thanks, really, that was unexpected." Yarick gave a small nod. Once she left, he turned to Lacey. "You're done." "What? You're done? Clock out." "You can't fire me." "You're a trainee." Yarick stepped forward, voice low, steady. "My name is Yarick Jensen. I own this company." The silence hit like a dropped tray. Lacey's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Louis dropped the spatula he was holding. Amber looked like she couldn't decide whether to cry or run. Yarick didn't raise his voice. You told me I didn't belong here yesterday. Today you let a disabled man struggle for seating, abandoned your post during lunch rush, and ignored a paying customer. You've disrespected your coworkers, your customers, and everything this company stands for. You're dismissed, immediately. Lacey stood frozen. Go, he said, eyes unwavering. She turned, grabbed her purse, and stormed out the back. No one said a word for several long seconds, then Amber stepped forward. Sir? I didn't know. You don't have to explain, Yarick said. But I'd like to talk to you after close. You too, Lewis. We've got a lot to fix, and I'm not leaving until we do. For the first time that day, Amber smiled, not wide, not dramatic, just enough to say for the first time since she started here she had hope. After the doors locked for the night, the dining room emptied to silence. The only sounds came from the humming of the walk-in cooler and the low clink of dishes being stacked. Yarick stood by the register, arms crossed, watching Amber and Lewis finish wiping down the prep tables. No one had said much after Lacey stormed out. The energy in the room had shifted, cautious, uncertain but calmer. Lewis dried his hands on a towel and glanced toward Amber. She's really not coming back. No, Yarick replied. She's not. Amber leaned her hip against the counter. We've all wanted that to happen for months, but nobody thought it actually would. I'm sorry it took this long, Yarick said. I should have been here sooner. Lewis gave a short nod. You said we'd talk. Yarick motioned for them to sit. They pulled up chairs around one of the empty tables. The overhead lights cast long shadows across the tile floor, and the place felt more like a break room than a restaurant now. I read the reports, Yarick began, but I didn't understand the damage until I saw it. Amber sat forward, elbows on the table. It's not just personalities. It's the whole setup. We've been short 2 people for weeks. No one wants to transfer here because of the turnover. We've had delivery orders canceled on us because the kitchen can't keep up, and customers. Most of them don't come back twice, some don't get past the front door. Lewis nodded. When people walk in, they look around and decide in 10 seconds whether to stay. If what they see is Lacey on her phone and me sweating bullets in the back, they don't stick around. Yarick took that in. How many shifts are you pulling a week? 6, Lewis answered. 12-hour days sometimes. I clock out on time, but I don't leave. I just stop getting paid. Amber looked over at him. You're still here when I open. I didn't know it was that bad. I didn't want to drag you into it, Lewis said simply. Yarick leaned forward. That ends now. I'll approve 2 additional hires by Monday. 1 for front, 1 for kitchen, but that's not all. He looked at Amber. You've been covering the register, taking inventory, checking prep, and even cleaning the dining area. That's not entry-level work. Amber blinked. Are you saying you've been doing the job of a floor lead without the title or the pay? Starting tomorrow, you'll have both. Officially. Lewis looked over at her, surprised. She deserves it. Whole place would have collapsed without her. Amber looked down at the table, unsure what to say. Thank you, I didn't expect that. You earned it, not in a week, but over every day you kept this place from falling apart, Yarick said. But you've also been working in a toxic environment. That takes a toll. So I'm giving you 2 extra paid days off this month. Use them. Don't wait until you're burned out. She nodded slowly. I will, I promise. Lewis shifted in his chair. What about the kitchen? It's not just headcount. Our equipment's falling apart. That slicer's been dull since before Christmas. We don't have a proper sanitizing station. And the walk-in door doesn't seal anymore. I've been stuffing cardboard in it to keep the cold in. Make a list tonight, Yarick said. Everything the kitchen needs. I'm sending a maintenance crew out this weekend, and I'll have the regional equipment manager contact you directly. If something breaks going forward, you don't wait, you call. Lewis let out a breath through his nose. All right, that'll help, a lot. They sat in silence for a moment. Amber broke it. You're not like the others. What others? Yarick asked. Most owners, she said. They don't show up. Or if they do, it's just for some photo op or a walkthrough where everything's been cleaned up beforehand. I didn't want to be that kind of owner, Yarick said, but somewhere along the way I lost sight of what it's like here. That's on me. Lewis leaned back in his chair. So what changes now? Tomorrow, Yarick said, we're closing the store for the afternoon. From 2 to 5. I'm bringing in the full team, whoever's left. We're going to talk. I want every person here to hear what's changing, and I want to hear what they need. This doesn't work unless everyone's part of it. Amber nodded slowly. They're going to be shocked. Good, Yarick said. They should be. This place is about to run differently. No more silence. No more fear. If someone's not pulling their weight, they'll be held accountable. If someone's doing more than their share, they'll be recognized. Lewis stood. Then I'll be here, early if you need, just say the word. I'll be here too, Amber added. Yarick stood with them. One more thing, he said. If either of you ever see someone treated the way I was when I walked in, anyone, for any reason, I want to hear about it immediately. I don't care if it's a customer, a supplier, or a crew member. We do not tell people they don't belong, not ever. They both nodded, serious now. As they left for the night, Yarick stayed behind. He walked the dining room slowly, flipping chairs onto tables. The air still smelled faintly of fryer oil and bleach. He paused at the table where he'd sat with the soup, the same corner, same view. But everything felt different now, not fixed. But finally honest. By 2 o'clock the next afternoon, the dining area of Store 9 looked nothing like it had the day before. All the chairs were down. Every table was scrubbed. The overhead lights were softened to a warm glow instead of their usual harsh glare. A whiteboard stood near the counter with a simple message written in thick marker. Today, we rebuild. 7 employees gathered near the front, some still in aprons, others in street clothes after the lunch shift. Most of them hadn't spoken much to one another outside of rushed handoffs and clipped instructions. Now, they stood shoulder to shoulder, arms folded, waiting to hear why the owner himself had flown in and shut the place down for the afternoon. Yarick stood near the front counter, sleeves rolled, clipboard in hand. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. You've all worked here longer than I have, he began. But yesterday, I saw things I never expected to find in one of my restaurants. He let that hang for a moment. No one interrupted. I saw employees trying to keep this store afloat without support, without leadership, and without respect. Some of you were forced to do 3 jobs at once. Some of you were treated like you were expendable. That ends now. A woman in her late 30s, her name tag reading Teresa, stepped forward from the group. Are we getting a new manager, or are you staying here permanently? I'm not staying here, Yarick answered, but I'm not vanishing either. Starting next week, this store will have a full-time general manager. Her name is Melina Torres. She's transferring from Store 4. I hired her 6 years ago. She knows our values and she doesn't tolerate excuses. A few heads turned. Teresa nodded once slowly. And until she arrives, Yarick continued, Amber will serve as interim floor lead. She has the trust of the team and the experience to hold the line. No decisions get made without her input. If something goes wrong, she brings it to me directly. Amber didn't step forward or wave. She simply met his eyes once, then looked back toward the team. Lewis folded his arms. What about equipment? We're still working with half a slicer and a fryer that cuts out if you tilt the basket too fast. I've already submitted the requisitions, Yarick said. A technician will be here Saturday morning. I want you here to walk him through the issues. You'll be paid for the time. Lewis nodded once. Before Yarick could continue, a tall young man with a shaved head and a nervous energy to him raised his hand slightly. His apron was still dusted with flour. I'm Jonas, he said. I run prep in the mornings. I don't mean to disrespect anyone, but how are we supposed to keep up while all this change is happening? We're barely hanging on. You're not wrong, Yarick said, which is why I approved emergency overtime for the next 10 days. If you're willing to stay an hour past your shift, you'll be paid time and a half, and I've greenlit 2 new hires. Until they're trained, I'll be working the line during peak hours. No titles, just hands. Jonas blinked. You're going to work the line. I already did dishes. Might as well keep going. That got a few quiet chuckles. The tension in the room loosened just slightly. A red-haired woman in the back, arms crossed, looked skeptical. What happens when you fly back to headquarters? Don't take this the wrong way, but we've seen people promise change before. I get it, Yarick said. Words don't mean anything without follow-through, so here's how this works. Every 2 weeks, this store will send a full operational report directly to my inbox, not filtered, not edited. I will read everyone, and every month I'll rotate through one store to work a shift in person. He paused, then added, no one will know which store or shift. Don't clean up for me. Just do your job like you always should. Teresa raised an eyebrow. So what's the catch? No catch, he said. But there is one rule. If anyone ever sees a customer, an employee, anyone being treated unfairly based on how they look, talk, what they wear, where they're from, you speak up. Immediately, zero tolerance. I don't care who it is. Jonas looked down, then back up. That happened here. A lot. I know, Yarick said. And that's on me too. I created a culture that allowed that to go unchecked. That's not who we are. From this moment forward, if you see something, you act. If someone retaliates against you for doing the right thing, they'll be removed. No exceptions. The room settled into a quiet stillness. No one moved, no one challenged him, then Teresa spoke again. So what do you need from us? Yarick looked at her, then at each face in turn. I need honesty. If something's broken, tell me. If you're overwhelmed, say so. Don't cover for people who don't care, and don't punish the ones who do. We fix this together or not at all. He stepped back and placed the clipboard on the counter. This store has one more chance to become what it was meant to be, a place where everyone belongs and everyone matters. That starts now. Amber stepped forward, not with a speech, but with a short sentence directed to the group. Let's get to work. That afternoon, they didn't reopen to customers. Instead, the team stayed behind to clean what had been ignored for months. Lewis helped Jonas reorganize the dry storage. Teresa rewrote the schedule by hand with Amber, shifting hours to avoid burnout. Yarick hauled broken kitchen parts to the dumpster and then swept the alley behind the store. No one asked him to. By dusk, the restaurant was quiet again. Floors clean. Windows clear, the smell of bleach finally overtaking the stale fryer oil. Yarick stood outside, arms resting on the top of a trash bin, watching as the last of the light sank below the rooftops. Amber stepped out, jacket over her shoulder. You're staying nearby? She asked. Yeah. Motel down the block, she hesitated. I didn't think any of this would happen, not really. I didn't either, he said. But yesterday you reminded me why I started all this. Amber didn't ask what he meant. She just looked past him toward the store. It's going to take time. Good things do, she nodded once. I'll see you in the morning. As she walked away, Yarick turned back toward the now dark storefront. No lights, no signs, just a quiet building waiting for something better, and this time it would get it.